Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Ripping the Boards. I'm your boy Sam. Here we talk all things NASCAR. Let's get right into the episode. So, yesterday was the Pocono Race. We've had one Pocono Race for the last few seasons, and again, the crowd delivered the on track product. Um, a little bit not as good as last year, but I still say it's really good overall. Um, Prime. Prime, awesome. Prime is really awesome. And so, here we're going to be talking about what happened yesterday. But I'm also going to get into some other videos about, why I've been gone. But for today, let's just talk about Pocono and Prime. So, yesterday's Pocono race, I'd say of all the next gen races, this was the worst. Um, Prime example, no pun intended, would be how Chase Briscoe was basically on fuel save mode for the last, few laps of the race. Last Basically the whole last run of the race. And still the dirty air was so disturbing that Danny Hamlin, who was basically trying to push most of that last run, was unable to even mount a charge to try and pass him. Um, no, that's that's not good news. That's not ideal. I'm not really sure how we're going to be able to get back to a race car that is not so aero sensitive. We might have to go back to like enforcing a strict ride height rule so these cars won't be so glued to the ground. We got to add some horsepower to these things, man. I know we're talking about going up to 750, maybe what 775, like 25 is really going to make that big of a difference, but 750 and up, I feel should make enough of an improvement to these cars. I was kind of disappointed to see, I don't think I saw any car going down. I mean, it didn't show. I don't think we saw any car going down into turn one over 200 miles an hour the whole race. I mean, you're going down from 140 all the way up to close to 200. But if you see in the past, cars going off in the turn one over 205. And, it just seemed like there used to be more of a test of man and machine before. I'm not saying these cars aren't tested now because these cornering speeds, my goodness, some of the highest we've ever seen in all the history of NASCAR. So there's a little bit of a trade off there. But we had a few mechanical failures yesterday. The first of them being Riley Herbst at the very beginning of stage two. Um, I'm pretty sure the broadcast indicated whether it was a brake failure that caused a tire to blow out. So, if you have to use a lot of brake at Pocono in all the corners if you're really pushing to the extreme. And so, if you're having a car that has, I guess, less cooling, is more susceptible to retain heat. You don't want the brakes to run too cold as well. So there's like a really fine balance between having it overheat and be too cool. I mean, it's going to be in the hundreds of degrees, but there's still a temperature that's too low for it to operate properly. So when it gets to a certain temperature range, that's when you know you got that sweet spot. But many cars that were experiencing brake fade yesterday, brake shake, and brake failures. Yesterday was a nightmare for 2311. My goodness. Um, 2 to 3 cars having brake failure in very high speed sections of the track, barreling into the outside wall. Um, the cars did not tell the full story. These cars are they're really durable. They're gonna be able to withstand a lot of impact, but even still, the, you can still tell like a number's been done on these cars. So both right front brakes brake rotors exploded on the 23 of Bubba Wallace and the 35 of Riley Herbst. Not too many laps apart from each other, which led Tyler Reddick's team to preemptively bring him into the garage before any problem could arise and check the brakes out, make sure that they're going to be sound for the rest of the race so he doesn't also barrel into the wall at over 190 miles an hour. Um, Even though it only took a couple laps for him to really change everything, get everything checked out, because we also had a few cautions for other wrecks and other failures as well. Oh, Michael McDowell also had a brake failure. I believe it was also in stage 2. So stage 2 was, oof, stage 2 was crazy. Um, but we also had a few wrecks. So yeah, we'll talk about it in a second. But Michael McDowell also had a right front rotor explode. NASCAR didn't throw the caution for a number of laps afterwards, but Prime was able to show the piece that would eventually bring out the caution and how multiple cars had already moved it um, from the groove that it was in. I don't know how you can just be okay with having a caution being thrown for an issue that's been an issue for multiple laps and not get called out on it. You're gonna get called out on it. You're gonna have people asking like, who's in NASCAR control? Why are we not throwing cautions that are actually cautions at that time when it actually needs to be thrown? Why are we waiting multiple laps to see how things play out when all along you guys will be willing to throw cautions for things that seemingly are no issue? I like that, So consistency NASCAR, that's what we ask for. Um, we don't want the consistent nonsense, but if that's what you're gonna consistently call, we'll live with it. But the inconsistency of the officiating in the sport is still a glaring issue, and until it's resolved, so many things in the sport will continue to suffer. But yeah, we had 3 brake failures yesterday. Pretty sure a lot of other cars were on the verge of brakes failing, and we're just able to make it for the rest of the race because the entire last run, it seemed like most of the field was trying to stretch the fuel because where it was the last caution in relation to how everyone pitted had just put everyone in a position where they could almost make it, if not where they need to save a little bit more so they could make it on fuel. And so that's what happened. Um, we had Chase Briscoe, the leader. We had Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, up in the top 3 spots, pacing the field. But we could see on the burn bar that Amazon Prime has provided us that it showed that Chase Briscoe was lifting in areas to where he almost didn't need the brake pedal at all, which is great. It's great for him. Great for him to be able to try and save fuel. But if you're the guy behind him and you're trying to push so you could get around him, you should be able to do that, especially with a guy that's, if you have a faster car, you should be able to pass a guy even if it's on equal footing. But especially with a guy that's trying to save miles worth of fuel so he can make it to the end of the race, there's no good reason why he shouldn't be able to get around it. It doesn't matter who. If you're saving fuel, chances are your lap times are gonna, you know, they're going to suffer. They're going to not be as fast. Uh, and so we saw it. Chase Briscoe ended up backing up a whole group of guys. Started backing up a whole group, but no one could do anything with anybody. You know, I feel like the only pass for the lead we saw all race was when Alex Bowman was able to get by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on, a relative restart, like early into a run. And that was after Stenhouse had been out for multiple laps, on older tires. And Alex Bowman's tires were not as old, but he didn't pit on that current caution period. Other than that, I feel like it was basically just follow the leader for the front groups. But we did have some big movers. We did have people who were able to pass, but for the most part. And I mean, Pocono is always going to be really hard to pass. It's always going to be really tough to pass there. But it still should be. The air shouldn't be such an issue that no one is able to get around anyone, especially if they're way faster, like over half a second faster. That shouldn't be an issue. But yeah. And so we had brake failures, we had inconsistent cautions, we had aero blocking again, fuel saving, all that. A lot's going on, but it doesn't make that a good race. Just a lot going on doesn't make something a good race. We had a lot going on at the 2008 Brickyard 400. No one would say that was a good race. We have a lot going on at our plate tracks, Oh, there's a lot of action going on. Doesn't make it a good race. And so I might say that this is I wouldn't say it was bad, but I wouldn't call it good either. It's right in the middle. Closer to the bottom of the middle. Like slightly below average, but not bad. So that's my grade on it. If you guys have any opinions on yesterday's race, just let me know in the comments section. Subscribe to my page here on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, hit that follow on Instagram and Twitter at Let's Talk _NASCAR for more updates on everything about me and more things about the sport. Hope you guys will continue to follow me on this journey, and see you guys in the next episode.